Hey, welcome to Screenplay Junkie. My name's Drew Hellmich, and I'm a screenwriter. Film is a pretty sweet medium of art. However, before anything can make it to the big screen, it must start as a blueprint, text on paper. So if you're a fellow addict of film and storytelling, come join us as we take a look at various types of screenplays, short stories, and other source material that were crucial to the creation of the stories that we all love. I must warn you, though, there will be spoilers, so I do recommend being familiar with the title that's being discussed. Sound good? Cool. Then let's get started. Hey, Drew Hellmich here, Screenplay Junkie, episode number 21. Let's get right into this one. Bryan, what would you see if it was coming after you? Let's think about the ages. If you were the same age as these kids, 12, 13 years old, what would it manifest? What would it morph into?
I like this.
To completely scare the shit out of you, man. What would you see?
Well, I had some time. We brushed us by this idea yesterday, so I had to think about it. But for the age, call it whack. But if you guys remember, our mother, she had a little American girl doll.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was just beneath her bed, and it used to just scare the shit out of me.
You're seeing Annabelle, basically. You're just seeing Annabelle.
Yeah.
It's basically like Annabelle. Yeah, I would just see it would just be like some sort of doll.
Our grandma has those too. They scare the shit. I'm 23 years old, and they scare the shit out of me.
They got a whole room devoted.
I don't like being in the same room as them when I'm alone. I hate it. I mean, if I'm 13, I know exactly what I'm seeing if it is coming after me.
Yeah, what do you got?
Jason?
Yeah. Voorhees?
Like Jason Voorhees,
Jason
hockey mask,
Bourne?
machete in hand. No, not Jason Bourne. What the hell? I mean, he's pretty scary too. He's scary as well. I'm talking Jason Voorhees because when I was 11 years old, 10 years old, I saw the first Jason movie and it scared the shit out of me because I saw it watching it right on a lake. So when I was going to bed that night, I was like, holy fuck, he's going to climb out of the water, sneak into my bedroom and kill me. And I didn't sleep at all for 2 nights at that lake at all. Oh, thanks for that.
I mean, does that wrap up what you guys got?
That
would scare you?
That's what I would see if I was a kid.
Okay, yeah, I had to think about this one because I think depending on that age, it really would just have to be dependent on which most recent horror film I watched. Because just horror scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, and I love it now, so that's why I find it hilarious.
Yeah, well, we all have good imaginations too, and that's
dude. Well, that's the thing. Your imagination is your worst enemy. But the things that I could think of really quickly while trying to ponder this was, probably zombies, man. Just a zombie invasion. Just waking up. I would always get terrified going to bed and thinking I was going to wake up and the world was going to be overrun by zombies or something.
Just wake up and your arms just getting gnawed on by a zombie.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe even the Jeepers Creepers monster. That guy always used to scare the hell out of me too. Or girls.
Hey man. Some characters in the screenplay were having that same problem. So yeah, that's a problem people have. Or the girl itself in It, she's having pubescent issues that she's afraid of, so yeah.
Yeah, dude, the It creature is just fascinating, man. It's ridiculous.
I mean, we're going to cover it in general, we're going to figure out what it is, but before we do that, I want to ask you guys, are you afraid of clowns?
Bryan, you go ahead, Bryan.
Are you afraid of clowns?
There's the scary clowns, and then there's the fun clowns. Whereas, of course, I'm afraid. If I'm going to a haunted house, we went to, I forgot what the name of it was, but we went through, our friends, we all went to a haunted house that's the past couple of years, and they had that whole clown room. I'm that was scary as shit. I was scared. Of course, they're coming up, using weapons, getting in your face, but if I see an average circus clown, I've got no issues. I
would say when I was a kid, I was maybe creeped out by them. Now, no, I don't care at all.
I can't stand them. Honestly, to this day, I think it's stupid. It's if you're going to be funny, you don't need to dress up like a clown.
Yeah.
It's an ancient thing. I don't like them.
No, I'd say it's definitely a common fear. Like Brian, like you were saying, they have like specific like haunted houses devoted entirely just to a room that you walk through is just killer clowns. So it's a normal fear that people have. And Stephen King definitely took advantage of that. Do you guys want to find out how Stephen King came up with Pennywise the Clown?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Hit me with it.
All right, sure. So there's like a culmination of things. So, right, we've already talked about how having a fear of clowns seems like it's a normal thing that a lot of people share, especially with young children. And that's what he noticed growing up and when he started having kids himself, that kids were terrified of these things. You know, just having them at birthday parties or going to the circus, clown would come out and kids would shudder away from them.
Right.
So that's one reason. Very common. The one that really hit the nail on the head for him as far as creating the character was...
balloon animals.
I don't know the year, but he was already an established author, and he was on a book tour, and he got on a plane, and he sat down first class. And
of course, first class.
And
Stephen King.
A clown got on the plane and sat right. A clown got on the plane. Yeah, full
first
get
class.
Up.
What was it? Bozo himself?
No, it was a Ronald McDonald clown coming from McDonald Land or whatever the area is called.
Full outfit,
full garb outfit.
Wow,
makeup, everything. Sits right next to Stephen King. And plane takes off, whatever, lights up a cigarette, orders a gin and tonic, and...
The clown?
The clown did that, yeah.
Oh, my God.
And Stephen King was just, like, asking him questions, like, the whole plane line, like, who
the hell are you?
Like, where are you coming from? All this stuff, and that's what really helped him solidify this type of character.
And the guy in the Ronald McDonald costume was just like, well, I'm a shape-shifting creature from another planet or some shit, and I'm here to eat children. I'm here to eat all the children.
It just told him that whole story, yeah.
Was his name Pennywise, or did that name evolve from something else?
Okay, yeah, the name of Pennywise, I have no idea how that came to be.
Well, all of it is just from Stephen King's head, okay? It's all his creation, this guy in the plane, right. I guess. It just planted a seed.
Yeah, and then the imagination took over.
Exactly. But that's cool. That's a really cool backstory.
Wow.
So let's quickly talk about the evolution of it, all right? So it originally started out as a novel by Stephen King.
Right.
And it came out in 1986.
Okay.
Now, I know, Matt, you know the page count. Brian, you don't know the page count of this novel, right?
No.
Well, we have the novel here in our home. So me and Drew, we were like thumbing through it yesterday.
Yeah.
And my goodness, it is thick.
And we've never read the novel. Something maybe we'll get to, but like we said, Brian, just guess. How many pages do you think?
Dude, I don't know, like 900. Like, I've seen the book. It's a thick piece of text.
It's more
maybe like 900, like to 1,000.
It's more than that. It comes in at 1,138 pages.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's a big boy.
Me more than a year to finish.
It would definitely take a long time to read.
It's a commitment.
Yeah. In the novel, it takes place in the 50s. So while the characters are kids, it's in the 50s, and then when they get older, it takes place in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then the second piece that came along was in 1990, which was an ABC TV miniseries that included actors like Tim Curry as Pennywise and Seth Green as young Richie Tozier.
Both who were awesome. Like, I've seen the old 1990s TV one, and we were talking about this, Drew. Like, if we watched it nowadays, we'd probably think it sucked.
Oh, and you would laugh. Yeah.
Watching it as a kid, it actually scared me, and I liked it.
That movie scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. Like, as far as first horror movies I ever saw, like a memory that I can remember was, I think I was like 3 or 4, and the scene that I remember at that age was just when Georgie gets taken, and then there's the close-up on Pennywise's like fangs, and that scared the fucking shit out of me, man.
Brian, do you remember the old TV movie, Brian, from the 90s?
Not really, no. I couldn't. Not much at all, honestly.
I know when Bill's older, he has like a ponytail, so that probably won't be in the new version.
I actually I have another embarrassing moment that I'll share. I don't care.
Go ahead.
About this specific miniseries, because I remember, I don't know how old I was, maybe like, I don't know, 4th grade or something.
Sure.
I remember I had just recently watched it again. I don't know why I tortured myself to watch it again, but I was sleeping over at one of my friends' houses, and I was so paranoid about Pennywise and that it was going to come and get me. I started crying and like freaking out, and I had to go home.
Yeah. They're like, geez, I'm going to call this kid's parents. I want him out of my house.
They were exactly when they probably got rid of me. They were probably like, "What is wrong with that kid?" Jesus.
No, what do you mean? You saw a scary movie. That's a normal thing. You freaked out.
Yeah. What's up?
Wow. Were you like making the family? Were you like, I gotta go home. My sleepover's over. It's coming. They know like it was. You were.
Oh, I don't know.
Thinking about a movie.
I don't know if they knew what it was, but I did not spend the night there. I went home and probably was terrified in my own bed. But yeah, that's probably an embarrassing moment in my life.
Yeah, whatever. You didn't sleep much as a kid. Constant nightmares.
And then we got, most recently, of course, in 2017, they made the first of the 2 feature films that they're going to be making of the It series, which actually, interestingly enough, came out 27 years after the miniseries, which is pretty cool.
Right, because every 27 years, it comes out in Derry and goes on a killing spree.
Yes. All right, now the screenplay info. It by Chase Palmer and Cary Fukunaga, who wasn't that guy like involved with True Detective? Is that what he's most known for?
Yeah, he directed it.
Okay.
The whole first season, I know for sure. I think he was a part of directing.
Okay.
Which the first season is the best one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Based on the novel by Stephen King, and then comes in at 133 pages. And the script that we have is March 18th, 2014. So early script, of course. They brought on a third writer. I think his name is like Gary Doberman. He's the one who came on and helped with the script that you see in the film version.
Right.
And really quickly, I just want to mention, so like we said, the novel, 1,138 pages. This first chapter of the screenplay is around 133 pages. Who knows what the last draft came out to be. But just imagine being the screenwriter for this. You have to read the novel first, and then you need to condense all of those pages down to 130 pages for a screenplay.
So the part 1 is 1,000 pages. It isn't.
No, it's combined.
The whole text.
Yeah, it's a combined novel.
I was like,
they switch back between timelines between when they're kids and adults.
But we'll just guess that it's 500 pages for part 1, 500 pages for part 2.
Something like
we'll
that.
Just estimate.
Okay.
So
still just an absurd amount of info.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. You have to condense. You have to leave things out, and that's exactly what they did. In my opinion, they did a good job. But I mean, we'll get to some user reviews later. Some people hated how this movie strayed away from the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Just trying to. That just sounds like a complete headache. Trying to just read a novel and then taking notes while you're reading the novel and then turning it into, honoring what was written beforehand and then making it completely different, but also similar in a way. That just seemed extremely difficult. So, moving on, Matt, do you want to hit us with the IMDb info, please?
Yeah, sure. So it came out on September 8th, 2017, and I'll go ahead and read the logline now. In the summer of 1989, a group of bullied kids band together to destroy a shape-shifting monster, which disguises itself as a clown and preys on the children of Derry, their small Maine town.
Right on.
I think that was a good one. I like the logline. It sums it up.
Yeah.
A shape-shifting monster. That's exactly what it is. So it was directed by Andy Muschietti, written by, as Drew said, Chase Palmer, Cary Fukunaga, and then the 2 other credits go to Gary Doberman, and they throw Stephen King in there.
Yeah.
All right, so starring in this movie is Bill Skarsgård plays Pennywise, Jaden Martell is Bill, Jeremy Taylor plays Ben, Finn Wolfhard is Richie, Chosen Jacobs was chosen to be Mike, and Jack Grazer was Eddie.
Nice.
Oh, and lastly, Wyatt Olaf played Stan.
Related to Count Olaf?
Nice. Let's see what else we got here. So, let's go to the box office here. This movie made more money than any movie we have covered on this show so far, okay? So they made the movie for $35 million. Worldwide, this movie has made $700 million.
Wow.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
So much money.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that's just jaw-dropping. The producers I'm sure they're all like just so pleased with this.
Absolutely.
The amount of money they made, it pisses me off. Like, I wish I was a part of it.
I mean,
they probably can't keep their pants on with part 2 coming out soon.
Yeah, because I mean, if they made this for $35 million, you better believe the next one's going to be a $100 million budget.
It'll be more for sure,
and it's going to make just as much money.
I mean, even if this movie turned out to be not a good film, it still would have made a ton of money just because it's such a known title.
Yeah, people want to go see it. Exactly. I mean, that's what a lot of Hollywood does these days. They're just pumping out things that people are already familiar with, right? Because they know they'll go to the theater to go see it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
That's kind of bullshit because the original ideas get buried, but whatever. Little quick rant.
Yeah, that's what sucks for the guys trying to write spec scripts out there.
Right. All right, so let's go ahead and start the trivia. Bryan, you want to kick the trivia off for this one?
Yeah, I'll start it off. So, like we already said, part 2 set to release September 6th, 2019. So I get a little early birthday present.
Yeah, sweet. Only a few months away. I mean, I'm excited to see part 2. I really am.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I'm real excited. Let's get back to part 1, though. So just after 8 days of its release, it became the highest-grossing September release of all time and the highest-grossing horror film of all time.
Damn.
Highest-grossing horror movie of all time. Yeah, wow. In 8 days. In 8 days.
8 days, dude. That's... Wow. So, Derry, it is a fictional place filmed in Bangor, Maine, that's the only location that they used, and throughout other stuff, they shot it in throughout Canada. I'm assuming maybe that was for the woods and like sewage piping things. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the place they shot it at looked beautiful. Like I would love to go for like vacation there, but I guess mostly Canada. Yeah, mostly shot in Canada.
And just another, this is pretty interesting, that the Duffer Bros, which you may know them as the guys who directed Stranger Things, and wrote Stranger Things, right. They originally wanted to direct the movie, but were overlooked because they were not established enough, so they just weren't like credited.
Which
I think they would do a well job, but lo and behold, they came out with Stranger Things.
I just want to comment on that, Brian, because I find that to be very strange, because I looked up Andy Muschietti, the guy who did end up directing it, and that was only his second feature film that he directed, or was set to direct.
Isn't he like pretty well, like, well, only his second film, but his first one he does horror and he like did it real well.
The first film he made was Mama, and if anyone's seen that, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's like terrifying. It's really good apparently, and I think it's in a different language.
I don't know. I've never saw it. I
can't remember, but
interesting.
It's supposed to be really, really good. So this guy had that movie, and apparently that was enough for the studio to be like, all right, here's it.
Yeah.
And he did a good job.
He did a good job. He did a good job.
Sweet.
And just back to Stranger Things, you know Finn Wolfhard as Mike in Stranger Things, and he plays young Richie in it.
All right, cool. So let's get back to the movie that we all saw. Okay, so Cary Fukunaga, right? He was the writer for the script that we read, and he was attached as the original director, okay? And we read his script for this episode. Mm-hmm. But he eventually dropped out of this picture because the movie was stuck in production hell, okay? So then Andy Muschietti, the new director that was hired, he pitched a movie to the studio that used most of the script that we read, and he wanted to add more famous scenes from the book into the script, like things like the stutter that Bill has, things like that Fukunaga had cut out, which, you know, it made no sense to cut out anyway, so he brought those things back into the book. Back into the movie. So the changes that Andy made included, like I said, Bill's stutter. He put the leper back in as Eddie's fear, that creepy guy who had like no nose. Those were both in the original novel. He changed characters' names back to the original novel forms, and we don't even have to go over that. It was weird to like see the different names.
Yeah, it just made no sense.
It made no sense to change people's names. They changed a firework fight that was in the original script back to the apocalyptic rock fight that we all see in the movie, which is just crazy.
Crazy, dude.
All those kids should be dead. Like 3 of them got hit in their head with rocks the size of softballs. They should be dead. And then Muschietti, the new director, he wanted to include this smoke hole scene from the original book in which Richie and Mike, 2 of the kids, they're supposed to use a Native American tradition to have a vision which details how this creature arrived on Earth millions of years ago, apparently, and like the director wanted all this CGI for the scene, and the studio was like, no, dude, like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. That sounds
so they
crazy.
completely cut it, and honestly, as like a viewer, I don't know how I would have responded to that.
Yeah,
How the fuck are 2 kids gonna do a Native American ritual? Like, what the hell?
Well, I just want to know how would they know how to conduct it?
Yeah, it's like, did they find like the Book of the Dead, you know, buried in a pyramid in someone's backyard? It makes no sense. Brian, you want to talk about some of the dialogue lines that the actors on set came up with?
Yeah, so some of the lines, they were just improvised by the actors, the young actors themselves, which is pretty cool, and that was kept in the movie. so this is like much of like Richie and Eddie's character development. They're like Eddie, he actually wrote a lot of Finn Wolfhard's Richie's jokes. So just him throughout the movie, like cracking jokes about moms, sisters, just like what you like as being a young kid. So Eddie's character, he actually wrote a lot of Finn Wolfhard's jokes. He plays Richie, and which kind of doesn't make any sense because Finn Wolfhard is the one cracking all the jokes. So I don't know why Eddie wouldn't take his own thing.
Yeah, Eddie doesn't get the credit. The kid who played Eddie just doesn't get the credit because the kid who played Richie, he seems like the funny one when you watch the movie, but the other guy came up with all the jokes.
Yeah, but then Finn gave Eddie an idea. So how Eddie's scared of the leper, like that weird looking hobo, gross guy.
Yeah.
When he throws up on his face during the movie, it was Finn's idea. He's like, we should have this monster throw up on Eddie.
And the director was like, oh yeah.
They kept it in the movie, yeah.
Which is just, I don't know, that's just ridiculous.
I just thought it was funny, like, to include that because the director is just listening to these 12-year-old kids. He's like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Hey, kid, like, you want to direct the movie? And actually, okay, so while we're here, I guess the director had asked these kids, like, what adult actors would they want to play them, in part 2?
Yeah, that's a really cool
Which
question.
famous actors do you want to play your character, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to read right now what each character said. So Finn Wolfhard, the guy who played Richie, he said Bill Hader. Bill Hader is actually chosen to be in the next one. The girl Beverly, the girl who played Beverly, she said Jessica Chastain. Jessica Chastain was actually Kat in the movie. The kid who played Mike said Chadwick Boseman. Didn't get him. The kid that played Eddie said Jake Gyllenhaal. Didn't get him. The kid that played Stanley said Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They did not get him to be in the movie. The kid that played Ben said Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt was actually, I think, pretty close to being in it, but he is not going to be in the movie.
Okay.
And then the kid who played Bill said Christian Bale. And Christian Bale is not going to be in the movie.
Interesting. And so far right now, the only other known actor that we know is going to be in the next film is going to be James McAvoy as Bill.
Which he'll do awesome as. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep going with trivia. Let's talk about when Skarsgård, the guy who played Pennywise, let's talk about the first time he was on set, okay? The kids were genuinely terrified. They thought he was scary, even though he had his big-ass forehead. Brian, what did you think about that big-ass forehead?
Yeah, that was the one thing. I was just like, geez, man, like, why has he got this giant forehead? Like,
I know.
He years put on a lawn chair and sit out and lay out in the sun on that thing.
Yeah. What is that going on?
Put a lawn chair on the forehead.
I don't even know what that means.
His forehead looked like Peyton Manning's forehead. I mean, it was huge. It was just getting bigger. Like, as the movie went on, his forehead was getting bigger.
Oh, my God.
He's got the four-finger forehead.
Real quick, you guys want to hear some other actors who are rumored to play Pennywise?
Okay.
Johnny Depp, Tom Hiddleston, Jim Carrey, Willem Dafoe, Paul Giamatti, and Channing Tatum. It's like, what?
No.
Skarsgård. Tatum, he probably would just like took his shirt off, and then it was just like, all right.
Well, Skarsgård himself looks like a Calvin Klein model, but he was a good choice.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Check this out. He did his research, he claims, into the Psycho universe to find his own way to perform Pennywise, because he didn't want to like duplicate what Tim Curry had done previously.
Okay.
So he got his inspiration for this movie, his performance from The Shining, A Clockwork Orange, The Dark Knight, like the Joker, and The Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
So listen to this story. So while he was on his way to his audition, right, he was in full clown makeup in his car. He's driving himself, and the director had suggested, like, hey, like while you're out in public, and these people are going to see you dressed up, like just test it out, like do the laugh, like just see how people respond. So he's driving in L.A., windows down, like just hysterically laughing as a clown, and he said people were looking at him like he was the scariest motherfucker in L.A.
Nice.
I mean, I would be terrified because he was good. He was very good at being scary, in my opinion.
Yeah, like scary and just goofy.
Scary and goofy.
A good combo, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He admitted, the guy who played Pennywise, that he was so into his performance that he would have constant nightmares, like during production, during filming, everything, because it got to him.
Wow.
Then one last thing about him is that the actor, he had to wear these teeth prosthetics, like these like denture things.
Yeah.
And they made him drool so much, but the director loved it because he's like, oh yeah, like you're drooling to eat these kids.
Yeah, he looks hungry. Yeah. Nice.
Let's see here. I got that about 6 months before the film was released, Stephen King, they actually showed him a screening because he wrote, the original book.
Yeah.
He said that the film exceeded his expectations. He loved it. or didn't love it, but he just enjoyed it.
Right.
He thought they did a good job, right? And I think that's cool just because,
hell yeah.
like we were saying earlier, it's a hell of a challenge to condense.
Yeah.
You're condensing 1,000 pages of a book into a screenplay that's only 130, so
yeah, they
did a good job. But I guess as some of you know, if you've read the novel, the more graphic scenes that are featured in the novel, they're not in the movie. And those scenes include like sex acts and younger children getting murdered, and we don't have any desire to talk about those here, so we're just not going to.
Well, I just wanted to bring up one thing about that was so when Stephen King, I don't know if it was when the novel got made or now that the film was coming out, he got approached by people saying, why did you include those particular scenes?
Yeah, because nowadays people don't want to hear about that.
Yeah, why did you include those particular scenes in the novel? What's that all about?
I mean, it is uncomfortable, but
yeah, and Stephen King's rebuttal was just like, I just don't understand why all these people are pointing out that specific scene in my book when. And they're okay with just all the other killings that happen to children.
Right.
So, that was just a very, interesting topic.
So the last piece of trivia I have is that the end of the story, right, the part 1 here, it leaves Pennywise's fate up in the air. And this is included even in the book, too, because in the first page of Stephen King's novel, he says that Pennywise may still be alive, even after the adults go back and have their encounter, which we're going to see, this September,
right,
in the movie theater. So who knows? Like all these kids' efforts as children and as adults might have failed. It might still be out there.
Okay.
Oh, and Stephen King said though he will never write about it again because it's the scariest character he's ever created.
Right, that makes sense, man.
And that's all of trivia.
All right, sweet. Okay, there's a lot that we could talk about for this episode, so we've decided to break this one down into 3 main talking points, which are what is it, how the kids experience it and what they see, and the final ending when they fight it. So first, let's just go over what it is exactly, and I want to get your guys' take on what it is based on if you've seen the miniseries, now that we've read the screenplay and that we've all seen the movie, what do you think it is based on the evidence shown on your viewing and reading? Brian, do you want to go first?
Okay, yes. So what I think it is just like, some sort of ghoul ghost that can manifest itself into whatever it's attacking, whoever it's attacking, it will just see itself at what you see as your most fear. It's just like it.
No, yeah, Brian, I agree with you with that. I think it's just some ancient evil that has been around for a very long time based on, they tell us it's been around since these settlers moved into Derry, maybe even before then. It comes out every 27 years to feed. I think it's just some sort of supernatural creature or maybe even another life form that can manifest itself into whatever anybody, especially children, their most feared creature or most feared thing, whatever it is, and it takes that form. And that's basically it.
Actually, I went ahead and I looked up exactly. I was like, what is it? I want to know exactly what it is from some Stephen King researcher or something. And there's actually a whole Stephen King Wikipedia thing, and I got a very detailed answer. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
This is actually what Pennywise is. This is what it is. So it is an ancient alien monster. Ancient alien monster, I guess. It's a shape-shifting creature, and it's billions of years old. It's lived on planet Earth for many years, but it originated in a void/dimension outside the regions of space known as the Macroverse.
Wow.
The Macroverse, right? It's from the Macroverse. And since its true identity is unclear due to its shape-shifting abilities and being from another universe, its real name and species are unknown, and that's why they call it It.
Which is a great name because it's very ominous.
Right. It can morph into any other person, animal, or object, right? Which is very helpful if one is in the murder business. Its favorite and most common form is that of a circus performer named Pennywise, right? Pennywise the dancing clown.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. Its real name, though, if it ever had one, is something. It calls itself Robert Bob Gray for some reason in the novel, I guess. And apparently this can be an allusion to the real-life child cannibal whose name was Albert Fish, who apparently used the alias Robert Gray in real life. So that's kind of messed up.
No idea.
So let's get back to it, the creature. Its primary goal is to feed on humans, right? generally preferring children over adults because they are easier to scare and manipulate, and according to the creature, children's frightened flesh just tastes better.
Okay.
In the movie, the creature needs you to fear it in order to eat you, right? Because it like can't kill Bev at that one point.
Yeah, right.
It just like makes her float. In the novel, fear just makes you taste better. It can kill you at any time. Does not care if you're afraid of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the novel, it's way more menacing just from that small detail.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next section. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss each character and their experience with it. Let's just talk about one of the rules that is specifically noted in the film. I have no idea if it's in the book. It probably is. But it also makes me wonder how all of a sudden in the second one, and I'll get to that in a second here. So we know that only kids can see it, right? Adults cannot see it based on some of the things. If you've seen the movie, you already know what we're talking about.
Or it just chooses to let like the adults not see it at times. Like it chooses to only let the kids see it.
Right.
Because it wants to scare them because they taste better.
Yeah. Which I'm interested to see what happens with that rule, because as we know, it's going to come back, and they come back as adults, and they're going to be able to see it when they come back. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know why it just doesn't allow them to see it. Whatever. Nonetheless, let's get into this. Let's start off with Georgie. So
poor Georgie.
Yeah. And we're gonna compare it from the film. We're gonna talk about the film first, and then the screenplay. Just talk about the differences that we saw in both. So Georgie, it's the same exact in both.
Even in the novel. I mean, it's all every little piece of it, no matter where it is, what year it was made, it all starts with this exact opening.
Yeah, which is exceptional.
It has to.
It's exceptional. This is like a big smack in the face. Holy shit! This is what I'm getting myself into. Type opening.
Even when you know what's going to happen, like if you're going to rewatch this movie because you saw that we were doing this episode, like you know what's going to happen. The kid's going to die, and you're still going to be the hair on your arm is still going to stand up.
Right. So yeah, Georgie, he's out in the rain chasing his paper boat, goes into the sewer drain. Pennywise is down there, and of course, takes him and kills him. Okay, we all know that.
But the fear that Pennywise played on, right, was Georgie's fear of losing his boat. He didn't want to lose his boat, so that's why he reached in to grab it.
Right. And Bill's gonna kill you. Right. He said because if you lose the boat, he feared his brother being mad and losing the boat. Yes.
Yeah, he does explicitly say that, which is, I mean, it's like cool, but it's not cool, But I just thought that was good writing there.
Yep.
So then let's move on to Stan here. In the film, he sees that weird painting right in the rabbi's office.
Yeah, why is that even in a rabbi's office? Like this weird ass,
I don't know.
Creepy
why
painting.
Is it in the office? Who buys that?
Dude, I don't know, because it's a terrible painting.
I hate it. I hate looking at it, even in the movie. And when she appears too, the CGI, I just want to beat it with a stick.
Yeah, she's got like that weird face and holds like a flute or a clarinet or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I had told you yesterday, I thought it was a real painting of like something famous, but I have no idea. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it, and I spent about 20 seconds on it, and then I moved on.
So in the screenplay, it's pretty similar. He's in the same setting in a synagogue, and his bar mitzvah is coming up like it is in the film as well.
Right, and he gets set up to be on his own because the rabbi's like, hey, go put this away.
Yeah.
In like the basement.
No, he needs to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He has to take a leak.
So he just needs to go to the bathroom.
So he goes to the basement of the synagogue.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like this naked woman just emerges out of some water. It seemed like a fountain, maybe.
It was like a pool.
Yeah, just like a pool of water. She emerges from it, and she's just bare naked, has sores and blood all over her, and she's just like coaxing him to try and like, come in, like
caress me, baby. Caress me.
She's like, I'll show you me.
It reminded me.
She's like,
keep going, Brian. You're good.
No, yeah, because isn't it like his fear? He's fear to see like nude women.
Well, he's just a pubescent boy.
Yeah, he's just growing up, and with his bar mitzvah is that's like a ceremony of you becoming a man. So with him seeing this woman, she's trying to coax him to, in a way, be a man to get involved with her,
right.
In a way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. He's just nervous around girls, and that's why I think it did that to him.
Right. That was messed up.
It reminded me of The Shining. Like I pictured, like how in The Shining it's like a young lady who looks really hot, and then it just turns into this old lady who's just like mutilated. Yeah, that's what I was kind of picturing.
And and their flesh is just peeling off her body.
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
They could have done that for the movie. It would have been fine. instead of the painting.
I would have totally liked that better.
I would have preferred the naked, ugly lady. Yeah,
it's way scarier.
Exactly,
for sure. Okay, so now we got Ben,
aka Tits. I feel bad. Like bullies worldwide. Bullies worldwide watch this movie. Like, there's so much bullying in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
And like real life bullies probably got ideas. Now they're just going around their school calling everyone tits.
Oh man,
and carbon names in your belly. Dude.
Oh my, no one does that. All right, keep going, Drew. Keep going.
That's just psychopath. Yeah, go.
So Ben is the new kid to Derry, and he's like the intellectual of the group. He's really into reading and history. And in this scene in the film, he's at the library, and he's really interested in Derry. And he gets a book from the librarian. It's I don't remember exactly what it is. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but it's
History
something
book.
along the lines of the complete history of Derry,
Right.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Every town has that. You didn't know that? Every town has that.
So he's flipping through the book, and he comes across just like a lot of horrific events that have happened in the past. One specifically is called the Easter explosion or something of that effect, where a bunch of kids were killed. I think it was like 88 kills.
88 children died in this.
Yeah, there was a bunch.
So Pennywise had a good meal that day.
Yeah.
That bastard.
And in the photos that he's looking through, he sees like just a bunch of dead children, and one specifically they focus in on just like the head of a child in a tree. So that becomes his most, he's afraid of that. He shuts the book. That becomes his most recent fear, and Pennywise uses that to his advantage because in the film, if you've seen it, he goes into the basement of the library because he's following a trail of Easter eggs.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, kid?
Yeah.
Why are you He's just picking up eggs. I don't know where he thought he was going. I mean, I guess
piece of candy.
It can lure you in, I guess. So it had like power over him. That's the only way to explain that. But as a viewer, it's super annoying. But keep going.
And then he sees that like it's supposed to be the headless kid that he saw in the book, which this part's just funny to me. Like, it is not scary at all.
It's comical.
I think the CGI looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But I just like the horror aspect because when they open up the idea where the way they do their jump scares in this, I just generally like because they like hit you with one, but then it goes completely silent, and then he'll just start like running again and like the loud noises. I really wish I saw this movie in theaters.
The way it moved throughout the movie is actually hilarious, and it's
kind of funny.
It adds to the movie in my opinion because it makes it more entertaining. But some of the hardcore Stephen King fans like really didn't like it because they didn't like laughing.
Sure,
they wanted it to just be scary.
Oh, I mean, I could agree with that. But anyways, so in the screenplay with Ben, he actually does not have a face-to-face, a one-on-one with Pennywise. The only time we really see specifically with him in a scene is like in the film also when Henry and his goons are like beating him up by the bridge.
And he's got his knife and he's trying to carve it into him.
Yeah, and then there's that like car of like older people who drive by who just watch and just keep driving. Then a balloon pops up in the back seat, right? Was it in the screenplay? Was it a balloon or was it Pennywise?
In the screenplay, he saw the clown. In the movie, he just saw a balloon.
Okay. So then maybe in the script, so he saw Pennywise while Henry and his goons were like beating him up. Maybe that's what he was most afraid of in the screenplay, was just getting bullied.
Yeah, okay.
Something simple like that.
Fair enough. Being the new kid.
Yeah. And then we got Mike. So in the film, it's kind of like a combination of, because he's the guy who works at the slaughterhouse, the sheep slaughterhouse with his grandfather.
Homeschool kid, homeschool.
Right. And so I was thinking more of it was a combination of killing the sheep, so just that of, just slaughtering things, and also the fire that killed his parents. Because if you remember in the alley, there's that scene where the big door and all the hands are like
trying to get out.
Yeah, they're trying to get out, and all the smoke is seeping out of the door. It's creepy as hell. So that's when he sees Pennywise for the first time. And then in the screenplay, his first encounter is actually unknown to him. We know that he's there because we get like glimpses of him hiding in the shadows and stuff like that.
Yeah, Pennywise is just lurking in the background, and Mike has no idea.
Right. And that's when he gets chased into what is called the Kitchener Ironworks by Henry and his group of goons.
And this ironworks has like the old entrance to the sewer system in the screenplay.
Yeah.
So it's like a big place where it is like lurking all the time.
Right. So while he's getting chased, Pennywise is there. Mike eventually escapes and evades the bullies. And then in that same scene, that's when Patrick Hochstetler gets killed.
The kid with the fire, the pyro kid.
Yeah, that kid, yep. And he dies in a very similar fashion.
Same thing, yeah.
And then still on Mike. Mike actually arguably has the most interesting story involved with Pennywise as far as his family is concerned.
In the screenplay, yeah, for sure.
He has a history, yes.
Yeah. And then...
and I wish that was in the movie. I honestly wish that was in the movie. It would have been cool.
And so later on, after he escapes, so Patrick Hochstetler gets killed, and his dad actually goes to the hospital. I think he has cancer or something. He's dying of some sort of illness. And while he's visiting his dad in the hospital, his dad actually tells him a story of how he saw Pennywise in 1960.
Yeah, when he was a kid.
Yeah, when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm. And this was when America was, super segregated.
Right. So there was some sort of, it wasn't explicitly noted, but it seemed to me like it was, some sort of KKK.
Yeah, Pennywise basically influenced the KKK to attack, a whole community of black people.
Right.
And while this, I guess this mass killing was going on, it was just feasting on people, just loving it.
Right.
And then while Mike's dad was escaping, he saw it devouring a person.
Right, and that's what led his dad to figure out that we need to get away from the water because that's where it travels by. That's where it mostly occurs, is by water incidents of
right.
it.
I mean, but as you have written down right here, Drew, why the hell would you send your kid into town to deliver your meat all the time when you know this fucking creature is out there killing kids?
Yeah, I didn't. That did not resonate with me very well.
It didn't make sense, but at the same time, it's maybe the creature has a power over the adult, and it's just you're not leaving. You're never going to leave this area. You can get on the outskirts, but you're never leaving.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's what it is.
Wow.
And so after Mike's dad tells him that story, Mike leaves the room.
Right, still in the screenplay here.
Yeah, still in the screenplay. He's in the hospital after he's visiting his dad. He walks out into the hallway and he sees a sheep just standing on the far end. And he's like, whoa, what is a sheep doing in here?
Yeah,
weird. So he follows it and it leads him right into the coroner's office. And the door slams shut and one of the corpse lockers slides open. And he sees the mutilated body of Patrick Hochstetler.
The pyro kid.
Yeah, who then starts talking to Mike about how his dad is going to die. Which, that was creepy as hell. That was probably
it was super creepy.
One of the creepiest scenes in the screenplay.
And then it was it was coming at him too, and the only way he escaped was because he pulled the fire alarm.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which was smart.
But not included in the movie. Don't know why. It was probably up in the air, but they was
Well, I mean, I think it was easier in the movie for them to just say Mike's parents died in a fire. Instead of having this whole, it just added time and money to the movie.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they only wanted to put $35 million into it. But, hey.
Whatever.
Let's
move on to Eddie. So, in the film, his real fear is sickness, not being clean, just anything health-related, which this is all due to his mom because she makes him think like this.
Yeah, she's a freak. She's paranoid.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think Eddie's one of my favorite characters.
He is my favorite character. They're gazebos. They're bullshit.
Yeah, instead of placebos.
Yeah.
So Eddie's sighting in the film is that he's walking home by Niebolt Street, which is where the abandoned house, which eventually we come to know that's where it lives. It's hiding the old old well, right? So Eddie's walking home. He drops his pills all over the road, and that's when he sees the leper. And
terrifying, honestly. That guy, and when he pukes on him later.
He sees the leper, and it forces Eddie towards the abandoned house, just towards the backyard area.
Yeah.
And then it turns into Pennywise, shows him it's Pennywise form, right?
Pennywise is its favorite form to take. We said earlier, we don't know why.
And Eddie gets away, but terrified. He knows what's going on now.
Yep.
In the screenplay, we actually don't get a one-on-one with Pennywise and Eddie. All he says is just, I saw it, I saw something. We don't know what he saw. And then the first encounter that we share with Eddie when he sees any form of it is the blood in Bev's bathroom.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think each kid had to have an encounter.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Except Richie, though, because Richie, even in the original book, never had that individual encounter until they were all seeing it as a group together.
Yeah,
in the movie, that happens on the projector.
Right, yeah, let's just hit Richie off right here. So yeah, like we already said, he doesn't have a one-on-one with it in the film before it's known that they're all experiencing something.
Yep.
We do know, however, that he admits that he has a fear of clowns when they're at the 4th of July party or parade, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like Matt said, Richie first sees Pennywise with the group in Bill's garage on the projector, and Pennywise Makes himself humongous.
Apparently that, like, they got the idea to do that. It's not from, it's not from the original book, but it's, like, something else Stephen King had wrote was basically the same thing, where a guy was looking at a projector, but then, like, an angry, like, rabid dog jumped out of the screen at him, and the director just wanted to use that because he thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And that's another part where it's just kind of, like, funny watching, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Pennywise could have just literally gobbled up all of those kids at his size in the garage at that point.
Yeah, for sure, right?
That would have made only like an hour movie.
And then Richie has another encounter with it later on Neibold Street when they decide to go inside. That's where they figure out where it lives.
Right.
And he sees like a missing poster of himself, and he gets locked in a room full of clowns by himself. Okay, let's talk about Beverly really quick. So in the film, her real fear is her creepy-ass dad.
Yeah, fuck that guy. God damn it.
Yeah, very uncomfortable.
He's the worst.
Yeah, he's awful. So creepy-ass dad, she's going through puberty. She's going to be getting her period soon. What she encounters with it is that she hears missing children speaking to her in her bathroom sink.
Creepy.
And the hair eventually, because earlier she cut off her hair because she wanted to look more like a boy.
Yeah,
because her dad is just like totally weird as hell.
Yeah.
So the hair that she cut off went down the drain in the sink, and it comes out and latches onto her and like forces her toward the sink more.
Right.
And then that's when the blood just erupts out of the sink and coats the entire room. Yeah.
An excessive amount of blood.
Yeah, that scene is crazy.
Yeah.
And then in the screenplay, it's basically the same thing.
It's described, identically.
Yeah, basically the same thing. The only, just as far as description that I thought was like, whoa, that's a cool description, but like messed up at the same time.
And no, it's exactly what you see in the movie too. Go ahead.
Yeah, just when the blood comes out of the sink, it's described as a demon ejaculation, which is just ridiculous.
This is definitely like the wow factor part where, because the dad rushes in, he's like, "What's going on?" This is where like it's answered. That's like the parents can't see it.
Yeah, that's
so, like, as a viewer, like if you didn't know beforehand, this is when you're like, "Wait, what?" Like only.
I enjoyed reading in the screenplay. Yeah, like the dad comes in the bathroom. He's like, "You scare me, Bev. You're scaring me, or whatever, or you worry me."
Right.
And he like takes a washcloth and like wipes his face with it, and then there's just blood on his face. And
right.
Then, so whenever she sees her dad for the rest of the day, there's just blood all over his face. That was creepy. I wish they had that.
Wow, real creepy. Yeah.
All right, and lastly, Bill. His real fear is, really just, accepting that Georgie is dead instead of being missing.
Yeah.
And when he encounters it, he's in Georgie's room, and he hears someone or something running away in the hallway, and he follows some wet footsteps until he briefly sees Georgie in the kitchen, and he follows him into the basement, which is flooded, and that's when it is propping Georgie up like a meat puppet.
That's what makes this thing the scariest thing, like, honestly, that Stephen King has created. It can become anything to scare you.
Seriously.
Anything.
Dude, I just randomly remembered this. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie, they kind of played this. Remember when they're buying the ice cream and it's like the grandma, and it turns out to be a giant monster?
Oh, yeah.
That's a nice plug. No free ads. Come on, man. No free ads. Don't be plugging the SpongeBob movie.
And then in the screenplay, it's basically the same thing.
Right, yeah. In the screenplay, we read, same encounter. He sees Georgie. Super creepy.
You guys want to talk about how he kind of does for Henry in the movie? He shows himself for Henry.
Yeah, sure.
With the knife, and then just kind of.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So then, just one of the other characters, Henry the bully himself, he has his own little experience with it. So this is at the portion of the movie towards the end when clearly you can tell the tension between him and his dad are not good.
Yeah, his dad just fired off rounds in front of his feet, and the kid like pissed his pants.
Yeah, right. Completely scares him. And so early on in the movie, he has his dad like switchblade life, knife, and loses it. But during the scene, during this part of the movie, there's a red balloon. The red balloon's back, showing that it is showing itself towards Henry. Mm-hmm. And in the mailbox is the knife, the lost knife. He's like, "Oh wow, my knife is back." Yeah. Right. And I guess this is kind of when it kind of takes him over a little bit.
Total mind control,
and basically gets him to go inside and murder his own father.
Yeah, that part was messed up.
And he's on the TV like watching some like child's program, and they're like a sing along. It's like, "Kill them all, kill them."
Yeah, that was creepy for sure.
It was spooky, dude. It was spooky. It was just like kind of like how he can manipulate he's not killing you, but he can manipulate you to kill other things.
Something I read when I was looking stuff up is that like little TV excerpt we saw in the movie. It can be assumed that every adult in Derry like sees things like that every day, where they're just watching TV and it is influencing them, saying like, "Oh, let your kid go to the park. Like, tell your kid to go do this." Like,
oh, dude, that would be crazy.
That's just constantly happening. Yeah.
Well, I remember actually seeing the first encounter that we get in Eddie's house. His mom's watching the same program.
So his mom is being influenced. Yeah.
Right.
That's
totally.
Maybe that's why she's so helicopter. But you think it'd make her less helicopter?
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right, that wraps this section up about the characters and their experiences. Let's move to the last talking point, which is the end of the film versus the screenplay. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just give everyone a quick summary of what happens in the end of the movie that we all saw. Okay, so let's pick it up where Eddie breaks his arm at the Neibolt house, right? They have this whole encounter with it. Beverly stabs it in the head, right? It gets away.
Yeah.
Bill and Richie end up fighting in the street, right, afterwards, because Bill wants to not let it get away. He wants to go after it.
Yeah.
So it is like separating them, basically, to weaken them at this point. Then we find out that Beverly was taken by it after her weird-ass dad, like, assaulted her. And then she hit him in the face with the toilet thingy. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And the dad he has to be dead, right? That guy has to be dead. You do not live when you get hit with the toilet thingy.
I mean, she broke it into like a ton of pieces over his head.
Yeah. Oh man. So Bill finds out that Beverly was taken, and the losers assemble to rescue her. Right. At this point, too, Henry kills his police officer dad in the movie, and then he's like kind of going after them. So let's skip right again to when all the losers have entered the well. Right. Henry got tossed down the well by Mike. Then we see like it is like eating the face of Stan. Remember?
Yeah.
For like moments. That was creepy as fuck. And then we find out like Bev is floating. All the kids are in that like atrium area, and they see that Bev is floating. Then let's see. They kind of just like beat the shit out of it, right?
Yeah, right.
Like they're just all attacking it because it is weak, and it's saying, "Oh, I'll just take Bill. Like all of you can go away. Just let me take Bill."
Right.
And then Richie has that cool line, right? And they all just start beating the crap out of it. It retreats. We know it's not dead. All the kids do the blood oath, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's pretty much the end of part 1. And then we know that part 2 is going to be coming out in September. So that's pretty much the summary of the end of the movie.
Yeah. Now let's discuss the end of the screenplay. They end up going to a bar.
I just want to say, the end of the screenplay is pretty different. It's pretty vastly different than the movie.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because they end up going to Stan's bar mitzvah. They're all in like really nice attire and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then that's when they all realize, okay, we need to take this thing down right now.
Right. Beverly was not kidnapped. No one is kidnapped in the screenplay.
Right.
They just all unite, and they're just going to go kick ass.
There's like a storm. I think there's like a giant storm. They know something's going to happen.
They just feel, they feel something big.
So they load up. They go to Bill's house, and they load up on a bunch of weapons in his dad's workshop. And
I loved this part.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to share what kind of weapons they get?
Yeah. So as they stock up whatever armor and weapons they can find, which I'm just going to list, crossbow is just like, okay, what? Bill has a crossbow.
He's got a crossbow.
We got crossbow, hockey pads, a hubcap as a shield, a sledgehammer, a hockey stick shaved into a steak, killing vampires with that.
Yeah,
a satchel full of car flares, hairspray, and it's funny because like they say Stan's sitting here like processing what's going on mixed with their formal wear, and it's just like, dude, what are we doing? We're building like a zombie apocalypse, and we're all in suit and ties.
And then you remember what they give Stan too, because you didn't have it in there. They gave Stan a chainsaw. They gave him a chainsaw.
Stan a chainsaw.
There must have been a lot of gas in there. They load up on all their weapons. They go to the ironworks because that's where they figure out is the entrance to get into its lair that leads into the old sewer system. And all the while they're traveling into the ironworks, Henry and his goons are tracking them. And before they go in, one of his goons refuses to go inside after them. So Henry just kills him. He just plunges his plunges his knife right into his stomach.
And the other kid's like, "I'll go in with you. I don't want to get stabbed."
So now that they're in its lair, they're going through this very labyrinth metal type place.
Right, yeah. In the movie, they're entering this thing through the house, right? Like we said, in the screenplay, they're entering through this ironworks place.
Yes. So they get away from all these normal tunnels, and then they start getting into where it started creating its own kind of area, which it's described as some sort of like they're crawling on some sort of thin membrane.
It's like they've like entered a new dimension at this point. Like that's what I was reading in my mind. That's what I had created.
And beneath the membrane are like a bunch of spiders. And this is when another one of Henry's goons gets killed because, like I said, the membrane is supposed to be really thin, and he just starts breaking it, and he falls into it, and all the spiders just swarm him and devour him, which was ridiculous.
It was terrifying. I mean, like, how did you guys picture that in your head? I imagine just, like, walking on water, basically, but then everything, like, in the water is just spiders, like, ready to eat you.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
It was like...
it was weird. Yeah, I was just...
And the way the kids, like... It was like the kids, like, crawled, like, on it like it was like a trampoline almost. And, like,
yeah,
that's how they
like a trampoline,
They didn't break the membrane, but then the other kid, he came in too hot with a knife, cut open the membrane, spiders loose everywhere.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
So after they travel through there, they get into this gigantic open area, and this is where there's some sort of like waterfall that rises upwards to like it's described as like a pool of water directly above them, like a black mirror. Yeah, like a black mirror or something.
They're in another dimension. Like gravity does not apply here.
So they jump into the waterfall that brings them up towards this black pool, and they hit it, and then all of a sudden they're
inverted.
Yeah, they're inverted exactly.
Gravity shifts again, and they're like upside down, and all of a sudden they're like standing on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Very trippy.
So they go up there, and as they're swimming, there's like some sort of island in the distance, you know, some sort of structure. So they're swimming towards it, and then it takes the form of like some sort of worm, octopus type thing with tentacles. And I mean, I thought that part was pretty cool.
I thought it was cool too. It was like the Kraken.
Yeah, so they're trying to like swim away from it, and while Stan is swimming, also lugging a chainsaw, he stares into its deadlights, which are those you just stare into them and you just get mesmerized, and you're basically screwed if you keep staring at him. But they rip him away from it, they bring him to the island, they snap him out of it, and then that's when Bill sees some sort of like trap door on this island.
Right.
So he's the first one to enter, throws a rope down there. As he's going down,
and this trap door is like the heart of its lair. Like,
yes.
This is like the last chamber. This is where it is.
Yep. So while he's going down the rope snaps, and the trap door is being shut. So now he's completely
alone,
cut off from his friends. Right. He's alone
with it.
He has a one-on-one with it, who takes the shape of Pennywise and mainly Georgie, and like just about like they kind of battle a little bit.
Well, and it's weak, remember too, because they had the initial encounter.
Yeah. So they battle a little bit, and it is actually winning. And as it's about to kill Bill, his friends are able to get in there, and
it's actually Ben who shoots it with a crossbow right in the face.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they just attack it. Then they just attack it just like in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, then they set it on fire.
Oh, that's right, yeah. They burn it to death, they think.
Yep, yeah, they think they burned it to death. I mean, I can't remember if they were just...
the ash,
Yeah, that's right. So that's how they think they killed it. They just burn it. And then there's like some sort of like flood going on. Like maybe it's like the end of its like term where it's about to go into hibernation.
Yeah, it's like they have to run a marathon to escape now because like
there's like a flood.
They went in so deep, it seemed. Like it was a journey to get to this point. And now they just have to turn around and get the fuck out.
Yeah, there's like the flood, so then they eventually get out, and like in the film as well, they do a blood oath to promise to come back if it isn't dead.
Right.
And then right at the end of the screenplay, like the last line is that there's a red balloon like floats up above Derry and pops, and then it ends.
Right. In the movie, it's so obvious that it is not dead. In the screenplay, like
you think it is.
You see a burnt corpse. You see like they fuck it up way worse.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, as we know, it's not dead. All right, so real quick, let's just go over some user review stuff. Like, what do people think about this movie? So lots of people on the IMDb website posted user reviews, and they were upset. They didn't really like the movie because they were the people that read the original book, and they wanted to see more of the original things. So here's some like plot holes they pointed out. So some people were like, "Why? Like, what happened to all the kids at the end of the movie? Like, because they were floating down. Like, what was going on with them?"
True.
You know, because like Bev came back and she was floating. So could all the other kids come back? Like, they thought that was kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way the movie got around that was that they said that Bev wasn't afraid of it. That's why
she was able to come back.
Yeah.
Right. And like a kiss brought her back too. It's like,
oh
why?
yeah, that was funny.
But then at the end of the movie, she kissed Bill at the end too. So it's like, what the hell, Ben? Like Ben got screwed. Like some people were upset with the jump scares. They didn't think those were good. Some people didn't like the CGI, and I get that, you know, because it's an older crowd of people that read this novel from the 80s. They don't like that much CGI, I'm sure. And then the last thing I have is that one person brought this up, and I kind of agree with them. They think that the best way to like really put it, like the whole story, Stephen King's whole story, the best way to do it on screen is to do it like HBO, Game of Thrones style, 5 seasons, 8 episodes per. But the only issue with that is that the kids are going to get older as you keep shooting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could totally...
I'd generally like it to see it as a TV show series. It'd be interesting just to...
You could just really get into it.
And it's like...
You could really get into the themes. Yeah.
I mean, I could totally agree and see some of those complaints with the IMDb stuff. I mean, I get it. I get what they're saying, but overall, I like this movie. I think it's good. I think it's one of the better horror movies to come out, at least.
Heck yeah.
Within the past decade.
The box office says so, for sure.
Brian, you got any brain busters today?
Yeah, I got some.
All right, let's hear them, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, here's the first one of the brain busters.
Hold on, let me take a deep breath. Let me take a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready.
So just as the parents throughout this movie, do you think, well, I'm thinking, so Eddie's mom, she's so overprotected. Do you think she knows of Pennywise and is just trying to save Eddie rather than be like, you have to stay here with me, like, don't go outside and play, like, such and such, like, so I want you to stay alive and not get lost and taken by the clown?
I mean, or
is she just a control freak?
I was thinking about that, yeah. I was thinking about, like, both ways. I like how we mentioned that maybe Pennywise is just able to manipulate the parents in a way where, maybe it seems like they're being good parents, but they're not at all. So I can see both ways, whether it's Pennywise doing it or if it's just the mom with her overbearing nature. I could, yeah, exactly.
I think it was just like, she just seemed like super helicopter, and who knows? I mean, this town is so messed up. Like, it could be so many factors of why she's a freak, but at the end of the day, she was a psycho, and that's a fact.
I think the zone I had is like it being able to like relocate itself. I know you said it's like transfers through water is what one of them said, but it's just like, is Derry the spot, or could this be like do you think he could, like, how weird to say,
go somewhere else?
Deep theory. Like,
just like take a weekend in Aruba.
Like worldwide TV broadcast. He can take over the world. He can take over the world.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's something specific about this town that it stays there.
I know the timeline in the novel, it's like Stephen King's work has like detailed that it was in Derry from 1700 to present. So what it was been doing like before that, we have no idea, but for some reason it just stays in Derry.
Dude, yeah, it's already
I don't think it can be worldwide.
It's already holed up there, man. It's already made a nice home. It doesn't want to relocate, It's already got a food source, everything it needs, and nobody knows.
Oh, yeah, it's that about wraps for some busters.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hell yeah, nice. Final thoughts, guys. What do you think? What do you think about it?
Huge fan. I mean, I would love to sit down and try to read the full text. As weird as it sounds, I'm curious to see these excluded scenes. Like, is it that gory, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
I'll sit down and read it, but yeah, just from a creative idea, Stephen King, it's unreal that you could think like that and create some sort of horror, and that he's even scared of himself and he doesn't want to write about it anymore.
I want to read it too, like after reading the screenplay and watching the movie again. But I mean, over 1,000 pages is such a commitment, and reading something like that too is gonna like affect you on a daily basis. Like if you're reading it every day, you're gonna be like thinking about it and stuff. And I don't know, I'm not trying to have nightmares. Like I got enough going on. Maybe I'll put off reading it for a couple more years or something. But I mean, the story is amazing. This is one of the scariest like beings that a human mind has ever created. It's so messed up how it plays on our own fears. I had fun thinking about like what would this thing be like realistically, like if I was a kid, what would it use to scare the shit out of me? And like it was cool thinking about that. I mean, the whole concept is great. Great episode in my opinion. Fun to cover.
I'm glad they made the feature film because, I mean, like I said in the beginning of this episode, this is something that's been haunting me like ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just seeing it at a young age. So now that I'm older, watching it, it's just, from a creative perspective, it's just totally different instead of being afraid of something. So, I mean, my thoughts are basically like similar to Stranger Things. I love horror stories that involve kids. I just think they're more real, effective, and scary. And, I mean, it is, of course, the most hardcore horror story ever that I can think of that puts kids against a terrifying monster. And, I mean, it's just definitely a template that I'm going to be using to learn how to write my own screenplays that are similar.
I'll bring up the kid thing real quick. Like, some people complain that this movie was, like, too funny. And I think that's bullshit, because when you're incorporating kids, like, and you're doing horror, kids aren't always scared all day, every day.
No,
like,
dude, they're goofy as shit.
They can be distracted. Like, you can be scared shitless, and then 5 minutes later be laughing your tail off with your friends because you're a kid. Like,
yeah.
And that's how it works. And the movie captured that so well.
All right, well, now that we've done something truly terrifying, why don't we lighten the mood?
Sign me up.
Let's do something funny. What do you guys want to do next?
I'm down to go back to Jim Carrey. We have like a whole list of movies we want to cover, and I'm looking at Dumb and Dumber right now. What do you guys feel about Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, that sounds good to me, man.
I'm liking it, dude.
Lloyd and Harry.
I haven't seen that movie.
You guys want some Lloyd and Harry? What were you saying, Brian?
No, it's just like I haven't seen it. I've seen it many of times, but it's just like I'm due for a Dumb and Dumber watch.
Then it's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect.
Let's do it, sweet. No matter what platform you're using to listen to us, I just want it to be known that we're available on iTunes, Spreaker, and YouTube. So if you like our content, please be sure to follow all of our channels so you can stay in the loop with new episodes. Also, feel free to give us a rating and leave us comments, or send us an email at screenplayjunkie.show@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. Also, if you have any recommendations of screenplays we should read, movies we should watch, or really anything, let us know on any of our platforms. We're always looking for other things to check out. Thank you for listening. We hope you can join us next time.